All right, strap in everyone, because in this deep dive, we are heading straight into the mind of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
We've got this fascinating interview from a recent motivational video,
Mm-hmm.
and he really opens up about everything,
It's great.
like his work ethic, his outlook on life and success, and
Yeah.
what it actually means to be useful.
I think a lot of people are going to find this really fascinating because, we hear about the Elon Musk method,
Yeah, yeah.
but here we actually get a chance to understand the philosophies behind it all.
Exactly, like what drives the guy.
Yeah.
And right away, he just drops this bomb.
Oh, yeah.
He says he works like 80 to 100 hours a week regularly.
Yeah, he's not shy about that.
No, not at all.
And, he talks about living in the Tesla factories for like 3 years,
Right.
sleeping on the factory floor.
Just so his team could see his dedication.
Yeah. Leading by example.
But is that even sustainable, though, for most people?
Well, I mean, research actually shows that there's a limit to how much we can work productively.
Yeah.
Like, studies on burnout have found that if you're consistently over 50 hours a week,
Okay.
you can actually start to see, like, decreased output, more errors, that kind of thing.
So it's really about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess there's also a lot to be said for that leadership by example.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine seeing your CEO sleeping on the floor next to you.
I mean, that's got to be motivating.
That's got to be inspiring.
Definitely. There's a huge psychological impact there.
Yeah.
When team members see their leader making those kinds of sacrifices, research shows that it builds trust, a sense of shared purpose.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's powerful stuff.
And, it's not just about hard work, right?
No, absolutely not.
It's also about handling those inevitable setbacks,
The failures.
the failures.
Right.
And Musk is really open about, how many times the Falcon 1 rocket failed before it finally succeeded.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not afraid to talk about those failures.
And he even says, quote, "I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated," end quote.
Like, wow.
Right. Talk about grit.
That really highlights the importance of resilience.
Oh,
Like Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows that people who embrace challenges and look at those failures as learning opportunities,
Yeah.
they're much more likely to reach their goals.
So true.
I mean, Musk is a perfect example.
He is.
Absolutely.
And this actually leads perfectly into another really interesting takeaway from this interview.
Okay, what's that?
This idea of continuous learning.
Oh, interesting.
He's like a huge advocate for reading widely
Yeah.
and like building up this broad knowledge base.
He's all about that.
Yeah. And he encourages people to, and I'm quoting here, try to learn a little bit about a lot of things because you might not know what you're really interested in.
That's interesting. So what do you think? Is it important to be like a jack of all trades?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think what he's getting at is this idea of being like a T-shaped individual.
Okay, I like that.
So you have like deep expertise in one area that's like the
Vertical part of the D.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then you also have this broad understanding of all these other fields,
The horizontal part.
right? The horizontal part.
Okay.
And you need that because like so much innovation comes from
The intersection of disciplines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why this broad knowledge base is so important.
That's a great point.
And it actually ties into another fascinating part of the interview,
Okay.
which is his philosophy and what motivates him.
Oh, interesting.
He's like really passionate about this idea of being useful
Yeah.
and contributing to society.
Okay.
He even asks, are you contributing more than you consume? Which, I mean, that's pretty profound, right?
Yeah, that really makes you think.
Like, what is your impact?
Absolutely.
And it speaks to this, I think, this growing trend,
Yeah.
especially among younger generations, towards like purpose-driven work.
Yeah, people want to align their careers with their values.
Right, exactly.
And feel like they're contributing to something bigger.
It's not just about building rockets or electric cars.
Right.
It's about like solving existential problems.
Yeah.
And ensuring humanity survives. It's like his companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink,
Yeah.
they're all extensions of his like philanthropic vision.
That's fascinating.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder, how can we, how can we all find that same sense of purpose in our own work?
Right. That's the big question.
It is a big question, yeah.
I guess it's about identifying your values, your passions, and then figuring out how to connect your work to those things.
Yeah, it's not going to be launching rockets for everyone, obviously.
Right.
But it can still be incredibly fulfilling.
Totally. And you know what? There's another piece of this puzzle that I think is super important.
Oh, what's that?
And this is especially when it comes to finding that purpose.
Okay, I'm listening.
He talked about how crucial it is to seek out feedback
Right.
and be open to it,
Okay.
even when it's hard to hear.
Even when it's negative.
Right, like he's warning against this wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He basically says, and I'm paraphrasing here, challenge yourself to be wrong, because to some degree you are, and your goal should be to be less wrong.
That's such an interesting way to put it.
It is, isn't it?
Because it's like we all have blind spots, right?
We do.
And we need to be willing to face them if we want to grow.
Totally,
But-
but how do you actually do that? Like, it's easy to say, be open to feedback, but it's a lot harder to actually do it.
Well, I think one way is to remember that confirmation bias is always at play.
You know, like how we tend to look for information that supports what we already believe,
Exactly.
even when it's wrong.
Even when our beliefs are flawed.
Definitely guilty of that.
I think we all are, to some extent.
Yeah.
But the key is to actively seek out those differing opinions.
Okay.
Challenge your assumptions and be ready to change your mind when you see new evidence.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And you know what? This actually connects to another piece of advice he gives
Okay.
that you might find surprising.
Oh,
It's about entrepreneurship.
okay. Let's hear it.
He basically says that starting a company is just brutal.
Oh, well.
He's very blunt about it.
Right.
He even says, quote, if you need encouragement, don't start a company.
Whoa, that's harsh.
It is, but I think he's just being realistic.
Yeah, I could see that.
He's not trying to discourage people. He's just preparing them for what it actually takes.
To succeed.
Exactly.
Like, you need to be ridiculously dedicated.
Yeah, it demands everything you've got.
And speaking of dedication, remember how we were talking about purpose-driven work?
Yeah.
Well, Musk also talks about how important it is to find meaning in what you do,
Oh, for sure.
even when it's hard.
Yeah.
He keeps coming back to this idea of being useful,
Mhm.
contributing to society.
It's a recurring theme.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like he's saying, find something you truly believe in.
Something that makes a difference.
Yeah, and then just pour your heart and soul into it.
I love that. That's a great message to end this part of our deep dive on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about being successful for the sake of it. It's
Right.
about aligning your work with what you care about,
Absolutely.
contributing to something bigger than yourself,
Exactly.
finding that place where your passion and purpose meet.
Totally.
I think that's what it's all about.
I agree.
Yeah. Welcome back. You know, in the last part, we were really getting into some of the deeper stuff.
Yeah, the philosophy behind it all.
Right. And I think it's really fascinating to keep digging into that.
I agree.
So let's talk about his perspective on risk.
Okay. Yeah.
He seems to, like, not just tolerate it, but actually embrace it.
Oh, totally. He sees it as like a necessary part of making progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he even talks about using like a scientific method to assess it.
Hmm.
So carefully weighing the downsides
Okay.
against how important the outcome could be,
That makes sense.
you know.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting
Yeah.
is he says that playing it safe
Mm.
can actually be the riskiest thing you can do.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if something has the potential to really change things,
Mm-hmm.
even if the odds of success are low,
You got to go for
you
it.
got to go for it.
Yeah.
And he actually uses SpaceX and Tesla as examples.
Oh, interesting.
And he initially gave them both like less than a 10% chance of succeeding,
Wow.
which is mind-blowing when you think about where they are now.
It is. It really is.
Like imagine if he'd let fear hold him back.
I mean, that's a great question.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that gets at the core of his like entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
It's like if we don't try, we'll never know.
Absolutely.
And it's so important in a world that often tells us to just stick to what we know.
Right. To play it safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's also, which I love, really open about the fact that he's been wrong plenty of times.
Yeah. He's made his share of mistakes.
But he doesn't let those define him, you know?
He uses them as fuel
You know?
to learn and grow.
Yeah. And get better.
I think that's something we can all take away.
Absolutely.
It's not about being right all the time.
Right.
It's about having that humility to admit when you're wrong
Yeah.
and then actually learn from those experiences.
Like always trying to be a little bit less wrong.
Exactly. He
Yeah.
calls it being less wrong.
I love that.
That's a great way to put it.
But, you know, his advice for entrepreneurs can be a little daunting.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, he's very upfront about the sacrifices,
Mm-hmm.
the hard work, the stress.
Yeah, the need for a high pain threshold.
Seriously.
Yeah,
He's basically saying, if you need a pep talk,
don't do it.
don't do it.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's kind of refreshing
Oh,
to hear
totally.
someone be so honest.
It's better to be prepared.
Right. It's like you need to know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not all.
He also talks about, remember, finding meaning in your work,
Yeah. Yeah.
which seems to be a big part of what drives him.
It does. He keeps coming back to that.
This idea of being useful, contributing to something bigger.
Making a difference.
And it's so interesting how he connects his companies like Tesla, SpaceX, even Neuralink
Right. To philanthropy.
to philanthropy.
It's like they're not just businesses.
I know.
They're driven by this like deep love for humanity.
Right. And this desire to solve these huge global problems.
It's a different way of looking at it.
It is.
It's not just about profit.
No.
It's about using innovation to like make things better.
To improve the human condition.
Yeah. And it's
That's a really powerful message.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
a business could be a force for good.
Absolutely.
And it makes you think about your own work.
Yeah.
Like, are you creating something valuable?
Are you making a difference?
Are you contributing?
It's something to think about no matter what you do.
Totally. And speaking of challenging the status quo,
Yeah.
I have to ask about his perspective on money.
Oh, interesting.
Like, this is the richest person in the world.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to be that attached to wealth.
It's almost like a paradox.
It is, right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah. Tell me more.
He acknowledges how crazy it is that his net worth fluctuates by billions
Like daily.
daily.
It's wild.
But he doesn't seem to base his self-worth on it.
Right. Or his happiness.
No, it's like he sees wealth as a tool.
A means to an end.
Exactly.
Not the end goal itself.
That he talks about this, like grow the pie mentality.
Okay, I like that.
So focusing on creating value, expanding opportunities for everyone.
Not just for himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's actually critical of people who have that zero-sum mindset.
You know that the only way to win is to take from others.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different perspective.
It's really refreshing.
It is.
It challenges this idea of wealth being like a finite resource.
Yet you have to hoard.
Right.
Yeah.
He sees it as something that can grow and be shared, you know.
To benefit everyone.
Exactly.
That's a great way to think about it.
It's like building a bigger table, not just fighting over a bigger piece of the pie.
I love that analogy.
And this idea of collaboration, it goes beyond money.
Okay.
He also talks about how important it is to learn from people from all walks of life,
Oh, interesting.
to really listen to their stories,
Mhm.
understand their perspectives,
Yeah.
and gain insights from their experiences.
That's so true. Sometimes the best lessons come from the most unexpected places.
Totally. And he even shares some insights into his hiring process,
Okay.
which I found really interesting.
Yeah.
He says he's not just looking for technical skills.
Which you would think would be important.
Right. But he wants people who are exceptional problem solvers and who really understand how they've overcome challenges in the past.
So he's not just looking for what they know, but how they think.
Exactly. Like, he wants people who can articulate their thought process,
That makes sense.
show that they can learn from their experiences.
Which, if you think about it, is totally in line with his own approach.
Totally.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that idea of continuous learning.
It does. It really does.
And it makes you wonder, are you actively seeking out different perspectives
Yeah. Are you surrounding yourself with people who challenge you?
and push you to grow?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
And as we move into the final part of this deep dive,
Okay.
I think it's important to keep those questions in mind.
Absolutely.
We've explored so much.
We have.
His drive, his approach to risk, his belief in making a meaningful contribution.
But there's still more to uncover.
There is.
Yeah.
In the last part, we'll get into his thoughts on leadership, feedback, and even his definition of happiness.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
Stay tuned. We're just getting started.
I can't wait.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the mind of Elon Musk. And we've covered so much already.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. You know, his incredible work ethic, his unique views on risk and failure.
His emphasis on making a real difference in the world.
Absolutely. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that we really need to explore.
Okay, what's that?
His approach to leadership.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because his leadership style is definitely unique.
It is. It's not your typical CEO sitting in a corner office.
Right. He's not just barking orders from a distance.
No, he's very hands-on.
Extremely hands-on. Actually, he talks about living in the Tesla factories for 3 years.
Right.
During a really tough time for the company.
Yeah. And he even slept on the factory floor.
Just to show his team he was right there with them.
Going through the same struggles.
facing the same challenges.
That's a pretty powerful statement.
It is. It's leadership by example,
Yeah.
but on a whole other level.
Yeah, it's not just about showing up. It's about sharing in the sacrifice.
Exactly. And research actually shows that this kind of leadership can have a huge impact.
Oh, yeah?
It fosters camaraderie, it inspires loyalty,
Okay.
and ultimately it leads to more engagement and productivity.
That makes sense. It actually connects back to something else Musk talks about a lot.
What's that?
The importance of feedback.
Oh, interesting.
He stresses how even leaders, especially leaders, need to be open to criticism.
Even when it's hard to hear.
Right. Even when it challenges their ideas.
He's basically saying, don't surround yourself with yes men,
Exactly. You need people who will tell you the truth.
even if it's not what you want to hear.
It's about recognizing that you don't have all the answers.
Being willing to learn from others.
Yeah, and to create a culture where everyone feels safe speaking their mind.
Because if everyone's afraid to challenge the leader,
Progress stops.
exactly, innovation dies.
It's like trying to grow in an echo chamber.
Yeah, and I think Musk understands this.
He does. He's not looking for followers.
He wants collaborators,
People who will push him to be better.
people who bring different perspectives to the table.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about Musk's drive and his ambition, his relentless pursuit of pushing boundaries.
But there's also this more introspective side to him.
Yeah, which I find really interesting, especially his thoughts on happiness.
Oh, yeah, he describes himself as like medium happy.
Right.
And he believes that real happiness comes from finding meaning in both work and love.
Which I think is a really refreshing perspective.
It is. It's honest and relatable.
Yeah, he's not pretending to have it all figured out.
But he's acknowledging that both professional fulfillment and those deep personal connections are important.
They are. And he even says that having a deep love for your work can make you halfway happy.
It's like he's saying passion and purpose in our jobs are crucial,
Yeah.
but they can't completely replace the need for human connection,
The need for love.
for those bonds that give our lives meaning.
It's a good reminder that even the most driven people need love to thrive.
We all do.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of Elon Musk, I'm left with a lot to think about.
Me too. There's so much to unpack.
We've explored his incredible work ethic, his unique leadership style,
His unwavering belief in the power of innovation.
and I think the most important takeaway is that success isn't just about hard work and ambition,
It's about finding meaning in what you do, surrounding yourself with people who challenge you.
and never losing sight of those human connections that make life worthwhile.
Absolutely. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Elon Musk.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Remember, the pursuit of knowledge and understanding never ends.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what you believe is possible.
Until next time, keep